And how many of these companies are AI companies?
90% of our batch this time.
90.
Really?
90% of this batch was AI companies. Yeah,
So
it's pretty crazy.
what would you tell people who are kind of reluctant to even
To adopt AI.
adopt AI?
Yeah, I would say like you're looking at it wrong. I think every couple of like decades you have a technology revolution, and like you can call it like first was the internet, like very recently in our years, like we can imagine like when Google was around, and or when Google had just started, we were just born around then. But point being is like every couple of decades new technology comes about that creates like a whole realm, like a whole new realm of what can be imagined and what can be created. And the reason that like YC went from having 1 to 2 batches a year to 4 batches is because they understand this shift. We are literally at the forefront of changing the world, right? Like one of our group partners said is like I kind of feel, this is what he said. He said, I kind of feel bad for you guys because we're in a position where I can't even tell you what to do because you guys are the ones that are creating the playbook for the next AI companies.
Wow, that's
because
insane.
we're at the forefront of it, right? Like 3 years ago, I mean, like maybe like 5 years ago, before like ChatGPT and like this whole AI revolution, they had like a very simple playbook for anyone who's building like an internet company, right? Or like a social company. But we are the ones that are writing the playbook, and I understand like why you're skeptical, but it's like with or without you, the world's going to move forward.
Yeah.
And it's really the young people now making. I think isn't it the biggest wealth shift in the world currently
Probably.
taking place?
I
I
would
think
imagine.
that's something else. But like,
Yeah.
all the younger people know that AI, social media, technology, it's the best time to ever be alive. But everyone is like anxious and depressed.
I think like you brought up a point earlier around around university and people kind of making that decision. I mean, you guys obviously decided you dropped out and decided not to go. So I think a big thing for people to consider now is depending on where you spend your time, with time being the thing that's now so compressed in regards to how quickly things are moving forward. You really have to be wise about how much time am I spending on information that is not relevant. Because again, with all the amount of information that is out there is so vast now, you really have to decide where am I going to focus my time.
I mean, it's so like we are in the information age, right? Like me and my father speak about this a lot. It's like I think he has a bit of a. I mean, I think we're on a similar belief about it right now. But in the beginning, he really believed like the internet is a very negative thing, right? Yes. I think it comes down to how you utilize it. It's like anything else, right? Like there's going to be a lot more of everything. Entertainment, negative, like the news, like certain paradigms are going to want to grab your attention or whatever. And there's going to be people that's going to be competing for your attention. And it comes all down to what do you spend your time on focusing. There's never been a time or an age where getting information has been so easy. Imagine trying to read the amount of books or information or get access to that knowledge. You had to go to a physical library, right? And then you had to first pull up an actual map to figure out where is this place, right? Like now, having access to all these things, it is such an advantage. And I think people can't put that into perspective. Like our generation that was born with this privilege, if we only knew how it felt in the 1920s to try and get information as easy as we do right now, we would value what we have so much more. Yeah.
I have a point on this that I think is like super important, at least for us, is in the world where like you can learn everything and like information is extremely accessible, everyone has the ability to like access the rate of learning infinitely and super fast, right? But if you think about if you think about like a graph, right? On the y-axis you have rate of learning, and on the x-axis you have like rate of change. And if you think of how growth is made, it's like you have to learn something and then you have to act upon that learning to like grow, right? And I think that we're coming to this position where everyone's like this fucking guru who understands everything and like knows so much about everything.
Rate of learning is through the charts.
Exactly. Rate of change does not work. And I think that the way that you separate yourself is just like
actually taking action.
Vigorously act upon like what you think is important and do it for like a very long amount of time, and usually something works out. And I think that's where most people are going to get stuck, is because they're going to feel like, they like, if you think about it, like, bro, like people watch like a, and I mean this in all respectful way, like, because this is our audience, is like, they watch like an Iman video and they feel like they've made $30 million themselves, right? Like they're like, how I made $30 million at like 20, whatever, how old he is.
I mean, I think you believe that you are progressing towards a goal, which I mean, technically it's better to do that than to watch something else, I guess, that you're learning something. But, there needs to be a form of change to take place, right? And like the change could be taking action. Like there's value in reading 100 books, but you can learn a lot about swimming, but you need to, at some point, take action and swim, right? Like that's the whole point of reading. is to swim. So
Yeah, in
I
that,
think
in
it's
that
a beautiful thing,
aspect,
yeah.
like, if you want the perfect giraffe, it's just doing both.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
no
yeah.
person
For sure.
sits in their room for 12 hours a day and reads. Like, no person does that. So if you say read more, it's usually, okay, I'll read an extra 30 minutes a day.
Yeah.
That's what reading more means.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you can do
Yeah.
both. I also
Yeah.
heard, like, was a Never Enough author, Andrew Wilkinson. He's also like, everyone's got this debate, should I read more, work more? Like, everyone's got this. And he said, just like, do both.
Yeah.
Do both.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think the inverse to that is like, you should not be in a position where like you're just doing the same thing. Like, you've learned a certain amount and you're just continue to do that. Like, you have to also like learn, right?
Yeah.
So like, I think you have to find that perfect balance of like continuously learning, and I think that's also another thing is like, because we have ease of information or like access to this information, you don't have to go to university to learn, right?
Yeah.
Like, my prerequisite was if I decide to go to university, I have to go to a top 0.1%
Oh, yeah.
university,
Yeah,
because I'm not
yeah.
going for the information, I'm going for the people.
Yeah, it's more networking.
100%.
I mean,
yeah.
that like the main thing that I see what's going to happen, right, is it's just because the rate of change. We're not going to be able to live in a in a day and age where you just go study for 4 years and then you're done. You got a piece of paper and that's good. Like, you're going to have to continuously adapt and learn. Like, how much do you guys need to learn new things? If you're in the AI space, it's so much like
Every week something is changing.
something is always, and so you always need to stay adaptability is everything, right? Like, some people, when they join the product or whatever, when they look at like jumping on the Q&As and ask like, what is these AI future businesses and companies and what can I do that AI won't replace? And I'm like, I'm excited for this age because I know I can adapt and I'm going to use AI to benefit me. I will never be able to be replaced because I'm going to, well, at least that's what my goal is, right? So I'm going to try and stay on top of things. How do you guys go about looking at that? Obviously being surrounded by 90% of AI companies, like that's insane actually.
I think it's something we've all had to kind of become more comfortable with, which is just uncertainty. I think that is simply just a given in this space, and especially now in sort of the age we live in, it's kind of like you have to sort of just tackle things as they come, and that just comes with doing more, right?
And being adaptable.
Exactly.
Just like you need to be like water, like Bruce Lee. Especially now, you kind of have to like, you don't want to be rigid whatsoever.
Yeah. I think the point you mentioned there, where people are asking those things on Q&A calls, like what they're kind of looking for is like, what is the answer?
That one's certainty.
Yeah,
it's good. That one's certainty. Give me clarity. I want to know. It's like,
Yes.
I don't know.
Exactly.
But that is the point, right?
Like we got a talk from Paul Graham sort of towards the end of the batch, and he actually made a very good point around this, which is that the biggest problem that school has in what it teaches young people is it teaches them to try and find a cheat code for everything. Right? If you think about it, the way in which you're learning for a test, you're not learning to learn about the subject. It's not the knowledge.
You're
learning to pass the test. So you're looking for a cheat code, right? In life and in business, that doesn't exist, right? You have to, through action, is where you will find those
I love
answers.
that, man.
Yeah.
It's actually a detriment, really, for most people. Like, after the school system, you kind of have to just unlearn all of it.
Yeah.
So what's the point?
I mean,
Yeah.
And it's like, the biggest thing, like genuinely the biggest thing for me after school, getting into this industry, is just like information, right? And I really had a paradigm or like a perspective on knowledge and learning as negative, because I really didn't like learning anything that I was learning at school, right? I liked biology a little bit, but fuck, you know what I mean? Like that, like I was never passionate about anything until I picked up one book that like, it completely changed the trajectory of my life. And I realized after reading that, like, oh my word, because it was something about paradigms, right? It was actually a mentor or like a lecturer of mine. We did a class at university about paradigms, which it changed everything to me. And he actually gave me a book to read, and I read that book. It just changed, because then you realize that ideas, beliefs, knowledge, information shapes your reality. And by exposing yourself to different beliefs and ideas and paradigms, that alters your reality. And so if you want a different reality, a different life, well then just surround yourself with different information and get access to that, even if you need to pay for it. Like, knowledge and information is everything. And that's why we extensively invest in mentorship. And that's why I'm very jealous about the network that you guys are building.
And I think one of the great things about what you mentioned is that's all comes down to input. Like, you can control all of that. It all just comes down to, again, taking action. Like, whether you want to change your reality, it's just about the unknown unknowns. How quickly can you iterate on that and just know more things so that you can change your reality? I think you spoke about this last year. I spoke to you when we talked about how the inputs is actually all that it really takes. And what I think actually really helped me is changing the definition of learning itself. People think that reading the book is learning. Change the definition of that to how have I actually implemented this,
I agree with that 100%.
and it just changes what you're solving for completely.